Rhythm Changes is partnered with the Inlet music series in Port Moody. We've done 2 interviews with artists have happened so far in the monthly series, and it's been great. I've been walking down the hill here in the Tri-Cities to go to them. And the next one that I'm going to, and that you should come to as well, is at the end of this month of November, on Saturday, November 29th. It is the Corey Weeds Quartet. We do not have Mr. Corey Weeds on this call. I talk to him on the phone almost every day personally, but we instead booked an interview for you with the featured vocalist for this performance, and that is Ali Nuñez. So welcome, Ali Nuñez.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
It's lovely to meet you. How are you doing over there back east?
It's lovely to meet you as well. I'm doing very well. I'm getting used to the daylight savings yet again. And it's already dark almost, but yeah, 2 p.m. here in Toronto.
I have an Android phone. I have that weather app on my home screen, and it's so depressing when it says sunset at 4:44 p.m.
It is the worst. Yeah. I'm adjusting.
What's your favorite season?
Oh, well, I love autumn as much as it's coming to an end. Autumn is my favorite. I love the fall time. I feel like most of my memories that I cherish as a kid were in the fall. I think I loved winter as a kid, but now I'm not as much into it. And summertime because it's quick but great. Especially in Canada. I love a Canadian summer. So yeah.
Okay, hang on. So you're talking Canadian summer, but then you're talking about fall when you were a kid. So where were you when you're thinking of those falls?
Oh yes. Well, I was also in Canada. I liked fall in Canada too. I haven't left. I'm in my childhood home right now as we speak. And yeah, I just feel like those times at recess when I was like 5 or 6 years old, just jumping into a pile of leaves. That's what I picture. But yeah, as the years have gone by, I've had the opportunity to travel, or just a lot of people like to go away for summer. I'd rather get away in the wintertime. But yeah, I've been really loving my time in Toronto during the summer and getting together with my friends when we're out of school now and all that. So yeah.
Do you remember any artists, albums, music that you were exposed to when you were a kid around that time?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of funny, the trajectory of things, but it kind of makes sense at the same time. But when I was like just born, or maybe I was still in the womb, my parents were playing a lot of what was coming out at the time, which was Alicia Keys. And to fall asleep, my dad would take me on car rides as a baby, and he'd play Alicia Keys and John Mayer, Room for Squares, which was like a big soundtrack to my early days, as well as like a lot of stuff from the 80s, like New Order and things like that, which I've been kind of getting back into now. But yeah, a lot of that, a lot of Nora Jones. Yeah, I was born in 2001, and that, like, those early 2000s cozy jazz singer-songwriter vibes. Feist is another. Yeah, that's what I was listening to as a kid mostly.
I love that. I love 3 that you brought up there. It's so funny, the timing, because I'm 30, and I remember listening to 3 of those people you mentioned in 2001, and around
Yeah.
that time, especially like Alicia Keys, that album by John Mayer. Nora Jones, one of her biggest albums, I think, came in like 2002 or something like that.
Yep.
So even though you would have had him a couple years later, I remember around that very time, that's what I remember hearing on the radio.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think my mom got a CD at Starbucks at the time. That was the thing to do. Like, you just buy your music there. They were playing the cool stuff.
Okay, so you're in your early 20s, early to mid 20s,
right.
and you have formative buying music memories. You're not quite of the age where those are gone.
Yes, I cherish those memories. I feel like I had the tail end of touching grass as a child.
Yeah, there's a whole other conversation about other aspects of that in life. That's for darn certain.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot to consider there. And you play with, I'm sure one of the wonderful things about music, right, is that you end up playing with people a lot older than you, people of your own age now, and not too many years from now, no doubt, people who are younger than you as well. Like, it's kind of, I think about that sometimes, where there's in so many other fields of life, you get kind of cloistered into your
Yeah.
own age, but not in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I was even thinking about that more recently. Just the community, the music community and the arts community, and how you just get to meet people of all generations, people who are very open and willing to share their experience. So I think that that has been like a guiding light in a lot of ways, through this thing, to be playing especially jazz, and to I have my own connection to it obviously, but to learn from the greats who were around at that time, and for them to share their stories, like that's what I do this for. I feel like that's the best. Yeah.
So you could start this from any age you want, really, but let's talk about how you got more deeply into singing over the years, and maybe even who some of those people were, those people who enabled you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was well, as a kid I just loved music. I really loved to dance, and I was always drawn to it, and I was very loud, talking, screaming, and then kind of we thought, well, my parents thought, let's maybe put this towards something, and started singing a lot of music, a lot of like theater things, but also just what I was hearing on the radio or voices that I really liked. I was very soulful from a young age, so I loved like Alicia Keys and these like soulful singers. Aretha Franklin has been like such a big person for me, throughout this time for until now, and continuing to be. But yeah, I started singing. People would tell me jazz would be a really great genre for your daughter's voice. Like they say that to my parents. And I studied with a music teacher when I was in elementary school. He was a percussionist and he led a band. And so I joined the school band, sang for the Christmas shows, which a lot of, Christmas material has like that jazz harmony. And so I really fell in love with that material, and also just classic songs from musicals like The Sound of Music. And I just had this big voice and wanted to keep singing, wanted to keep learning, and went to a performing arts high school, kind of continued the theater thing, but then was really championed by a mentor and teacher, Jeffrey Newberry, who is a musical extraordinaire. He's wonderful piano player and conductor, and just led a lot of choir programs and the musical theater program music wise, and heard my voice, and he encouraged me to keep this thing going. And I learned a lot about Humber. I had these, which I ended up going to. I had the chance to sit in on master classes and learn from alumni from the school and people who were doing this for a living. I think that when I was like 12, I decided, okay, I want to be a singer. I want to be a singer for the rest of my life. I can do this. I want to do this thing. But then meeting people who were working in the field really opened my eyes to like, okay, I can see a clear path of where I'm going to go with this. That was sort of the beginning of it. I not only like gravitated towards and knew that this was the thing I loved, but I was like, okay, I don't really know what else I want to do with my life. This seems like it. I've decided that I think I'm okay with this, and I think I could do well. We'll see.
Do you have siblings?
I do. I have an older brother. He's 6 years older than me. We're quite different, but he's very musical. We shared a wall growing up, and he would play a lot of music that I would just I'd hear a song and I'd be like, okay, what is he listening to? It sounds really cool. I want to listen to the same stuff. And through him and my parents and friendships and all of that, I have a very vast music taste. But jazz has been like the thing that I've really stuck to in terms of my own performance and what I love to play and what I love to predominantly listen to. Yeah.
Okay, so there's a lot of interesting stuff here. I mean, you have an EP. This is your first release that
Yeah.
you put out recently called Under the Lemon Tree, and it's
Yeah.
all original songs.
That's
And
right.
you mentioned in your background a bit about musical theater. And this is where I was second guessing myself when I was listening, and I was thinking about, okay, how am I going to remember these different tracks in my mind? And I was thinking to myself before we started talking here, when I was getting into it, I was like, is Ali going to be cheesed off at me if I note that some of the songs were a little bit like musical theater arrangements
No,
or not?
I bring the theatrics. It makes sense. No, yeah.
Yeah, because there's a lot of piano and voice tracks on that album. And we can look at each of them later because you wrote them, and it'll be cool to hear a little bit more about the background. But I think there's two in particular that I flagged as like, okay, these are kind of like musical theater song arrangements. One of them would definitely be I Think of You, and the other one would be The End.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so that's fair.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I think so. I think I sometimes I don't even notice until a project is over, like a song is written, where where those influences are coming from until I hear it from other people, and I'm like, that makes total sense, and I can put the two and two together. Um, but yeah, that was mostly because I'm in collaboration with one of my good friends, Eric Liang, who plays piano on the EP, and we kind of built these songs together. I brought them to him. I wrote them all on piano, roughly by myself during the pandemic, brought them to him. And it started like that. And I just kind of fell in love with the way that they were when we first made them. And I didn't want to change them. I liked the intimacy of just piano and voice in that relationship. So I think that's really where it came from. But I ultimately I'm trying to tell a story. And so I think that theater side of things comes through in just the storytelling thematically of things. Yeah.
So you went to your home city music program because you're from Toronto. You were saying
Yeah.
you went to Humber. You mentioned you were even thinking about it when you were younger. I did this too. I'm out here in Vancouver. I went to Capilano University's jazz program, which is
Yeah.
here. And I thought that was great. For me, I appreciated that there was a great place that I could go and try out in my own city because I was definitely on the younger side at the time, even if people coming in, and I felt like I wasn't ready to move
Right.
somewhere else. And not only that, but there were people here who I wanted to continue spending time with. And that was like one area. What about your experience compares to that, or how you reflect on that now it's been a couple of years, I guess, the time you
Yeah.
arrived there?
Yeah, I can definitely relate. I was applying for schools, um, and I think the main two were Humber and Berkeley. And I mean, there was a lot to consider with Berkeley because of the price point, moving to a completely different city as well. And it's just kind of daunting. It's a very big school. But I went through the audition process of both. And for some reason, I knew that even in that time, I was like, it would be crazy if I went to Berkeley. And it felt like, oh, that would be a dream come true. But it also felt like I just wanted to go to Humber. I wanted to be with a lot of people that I had sort of been introduced to years prior through music camp, through jazz music camp. I went to Interprovincial Music Camp, IMC, and I met a wonderful woman by the name of Lisa Martinelli, and she led the vocal program at Humber, still does. And I met her when I was 17. I went to this camp. I didn't really know much about jazz. I had like my favorite jazz singers, and I knew that that's something I wanted to do. But I heard a lot of people playing and soloing, and kids who were like way beyond where I was and had this thing figured out. And so while I was at this camp, I basically figured out what I was doing and what was it kind of expected of me, because I had no idea. I was singing Bemsha Swing, Thelonious Monk, Bemsha Swing. I was like, what is happening? And You Go to My Head, and these standards that I fell in love with immediately and that I felt I understood, but I had really no idea what was happening with the harmony and the improvisation aspect of things. And it really opened my eyes to what I could expect post-secondary to be like. And when I went for my audition at Humber, it was one of the scariest things I've ever done because I think I wanted it so much. And as soon as I ended up there, I knew that it was exactly the right decision and where I wanted to be. And it really changed my life. Like, not to be dramatic, but that entire thing changed my life.
Yeah. I'm an instrumentalist, so it's a little bit different. It's not quite the same. But
Mhm.
when I showed up, one of my favorite things about the time I spent in that program was that I hadn't played any piano beforehand. And so I really appreciated like the beginner piano class. Like it
Yeah.
really introduced something new to me. Like where were you at instrumentally when you were on your way in?
Like basically non-existent. I know that sounds. I have a very non-linear journey up till this point, and probably still will continue to. I found music obviously in a very organic way of just loving it. My parents signed me up for kind of everything as a kid, sports and music and dance and all of these things, and whatever stuck. And so, music lessons didn't really stick initially. I was just like, I don't really want to play piano. Um, there's some things that I regret. I mean, there's nothing I could do to go back and convince little me to just be like, you should do this, or to tell my parents like, hey, tell me to do all of these things. Because I think they just wanted to support what I felt called to. So I can't be mad at that. But yeah, I showed up at Humber not having much of a theory background, not having much of an instrumental background, having very natural instincts and good ears and this ability to sing. And so it was really, sort of, for lack of a better way of saying it, a bit of a kick in the ass for my first
Well,
year.
I doubt you were alone in that,
Oh yeah,
in
I
arriving
could
that way.
relate. I could relate to other people, which was nice. But I during the audition, went through the theory exam, which I barely got through, which was tough. And I then went to sing, and I got through all of the other elements, and I was told, listen, you didn't do very well in the theory, and it's going to be hard to like keep up at times, but you have a natural instinct for this music and you connect to it. In terms of like where I was in the musicality aspect of things was far beyond the theory, and that's probably still the case. But it really changed everything that first year. A lot of hard work right before the pandemic. So I was in person, like having crazy course load and just trying to figure this thing out, which at the time wasn't figuring it out. I think I definitely things started to sink in more once I graduated, which is usually the case.
So yeah, maybe the 1920 school year, right? Like the one
That's
just
right.
going into COVID, literally. Yeah.
That's right. Everything felt normal, and then it did not.
Man,
Yeah.
yeah. That's quite the timing for people who are around your age, and everybody, even if you're only a year apart, you have your own very different version of that story.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
I love that, and it makes perfect sense to me that if you have a path that you describe as more nonlinear, that when it comes time for you to put out your first release like this, that it's all songs that you wrote. That makes total sense to me because like the come up would have been so much about your own, search of your own voice, and you were probably writing songs all the way along.
Yeah. I mean, well, speaking of that time and COVID, I know that people are tired of talking about it, I think, or hearing about it, but I finished my first year online, and then the world was obviously a bit shut down, and I was going through all the emotions of like post-secondary experience first year in terms of social aspect of things and just life, and figuring out who I was musically and just life wise. um and so I felt called to start writing music. I was journaling a lot at the time and just put like jotting thoughts down, and then would bring them to the piano, which I didn't, like I said, didn't really have a connection with the piano beforehand. Um, and yeah, I brought it there and continued to write these songs, like one a week, and just kept them going and trying new things and filling in the blanks for myself. In terms of how I was feeling at the time, it was definitely like an outlet. And yeah, I thought that it would be wise to put out I got to record this music at Humber for my basically like my thesis project. You do it in your 4th year, which is unlike any other program. Like, not to be like, woo, Humber Hawk. I am a Humber Hawk. I I thought that that was, you know, an irreplaceable experience. It was the greatest thing, to be able to get into the studio, learn about the way to record as well, like really be in the producer chair, in the mixing chair, in the recording chair, and try to say something and make something. And I was playing a lot of jazz at the time. Like, I'd fallen in love by my 2nd year. I'd really fallen in love with just playing standards and playing shows and dedicating myself to the craft of it all and this traditional straight ahead style of music. But I didn't feel that I was like, I'm ready to make all of these arrangements and have my own version of what I have to say yet. I want to speak from what I truly know and release original music. It felt safe, but it also felt scary. There's a duality to that, but it felt safer than releasing a bunch of standards or arrangements of standards that I obviously love, but feel kind of precious about, until kind of now I feel comfortable. But yeah.
Do you think of yourself as a person who is more keen to make the scary choice or to play it safe?
I think I'm I wouldn't say, I feel like brave is not the word to describe me. I'm very tenacious is how I would describe myself. So I believe in myself and I believe in my ideas. I'm an Aquarius. I don't know if people who are listening care about that type of thing, but I walk to the beat of my own drum, and once I have this idea, I kind of follow it. So if I have a scary idea, I will convince myself to go with it for sure. But I also have a lot of self-regulation these days. I think a lot about a decision before I go through with it, sometimes too much, but I have a happy balance I'm trying to find. Yeah.
That's very cool. I could definitely sense that you have a certain type of confidence there, you know?
Thank you.
Yeah. So let's talk about the people who played with you and contributed. You already mentioned Eric Leong on piano, who plays on every track. But then there's other musicians too. So talk about who these people are and how you got connected to them, probably at Humber and around the city.
Yeah. So yeah, Eric is on keys, and we have Thomas Heinbuch on the bass. I was in my 1st year at Humber, and Thomas was in his 3rd or 4th year. I had met him and heard him play in a lot of my friends' projects and whatnot, and just knew he was a great bass player. And then we later connected and played music together, played a few shows. And I just had him in mind for this because he's a very versatile player. He plays a lot of different types of music, and I think we relate in that we listen to a lot of different types of music and are kind of chameleon in that, but really are rooted in jazz and like this traditional style. So I thought that he'd be right for it, and he definitely was. And I called Keith Barstow to play drums. We had been playing together for a while, and he is, to me, like no other drummer I've ever heard. He's very spontaneous in his playing and also kind of one of a kind. And I just thought that he'd be the perfect addition for, he wasn't there for much of the material. There's only 2 tracks with full band. But in terms of his creativity and what he could bring to the songs, I thought he'd be perfect, and he was. And then I have 2 features. I have Tamish Koznarski on the alto saxophone, and Tamish and I went to Humber together. And he was one of those people that I met at music camp, like kind of indirectly, but I had heard, and I was like, wow, like this is someone who is very connected to their instrument, dedicated to this thing, and has their own sound. And I knew I wanted him on the project because we had built this friendship, and also because I like all of these people for their individual voices and what they brought to this thing that was very personal. And Kyle Pogline plays trumpet on Lemon Tree Reprise, whatever you would like to, however you'd like to call it.
We'll talk about that one in a second.
Yes.
Yeah.
I met Kyle at Humber as well, and beautiful trumpet player, beautiful person. And I kind of called him on last minute. I was like, yes, I do want trumpet on this. And yeah, that's the team, as well as my good friend Michaela Ray and my good friend Carolina Lopez. They kind of helped produce, well, they were there kind of every step of the way of the making of this project, whether it was in the recording room or in post. And it was produced, mixed by Matthew Manifold, and I've done all my music with Matt through Humber to outside of Humber, and having him be there throughout the entire project was really special too. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about this Lemon Tree situation. So you got 2 tracks, right? First up, track 2 on the EP titled Under the Lemon Tree. So it's kind of the title track. You play it in an arrangement that I would describe as sort of like a slow stride piano traditional style, you and Eric.
Yes.
And then you play it in a different arrangement, which kind of amounts to being slower in tempo, you could say, but really that's because you play it with the rhythm section, and that's with trumpet instead of Tamisha's saxophone. You got Kyle Pogline's trumpet on that one, in like a 6/8 R&B groove is kind of how I would describe it. So how'd you come up with this?
Yes, well, I when I was writing the reprise, I knew that I wanted there to be this theme that kind of came back. It's like same but different, as the kids are saying, same but different. And I was hearing it kind of in a waltzy-esque sort of, hearing almost the sound of like the like tinkling of a music box. And through that, I kind of got into this feel of waltzy, but then I really feel rooted in more of a 6/8 feel. I think that's kind of naturally where it went to in terms of how I was feeling it. It's sort of a dream-like state, and so that's what sounded most natural to me. And I have a feeling that it's probably because I have a lot of influence from soul musicians, like modern R&B musicians, and gravitate towards that type of feel. But yeah, that kind of dream state sort of thing that's a bit different. And Lemon Tree, I think, was originally written in a sort of similar feel. We had like 3 different arrangements of it. One starting with just piano, like how we ended up playing it in 4, and then we had one with full band that was a 6/8. We also tried it with like a backbeat, which I'm very glad we got rid of, to be honest with you. We decided to veto that. But yeah, it speaks to this sort of traditional meeting, more of a modern contemporary sound.
Yeah, that's a great choice. It's funny how you can find like a moment like that with just one composition technically, and then only on a 6-track EP, and you can still like create a contrast. That's cool.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
And then Farewell, you've got the other band track where you've got saxophone featured as well, and you got the rhythm section. It's kind of like a bossa, a few different grooves actually, I guess, within it, but basically like a bossa arrangement.
Yeah, how we got that was also originally written in 4, and then I kind of started hearing it as a Latin, and I had originally brought it to, the band was a bit different at the time. A good friend of ours, bass player, his name's Ben Duff, he was in the band before Thomas, and I brought this arrangement, and he started to have this idea for the bridge to kind of elevate things, and he was like, he started doing this groove, this team bow groove, and we kind of followed that, and it really changed. It elevated things for me, and also I wanted the tone to be a bit different in terms of what I was saying on the bridge as well. So it kind of was that nice contrast in one song. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a lot of what I took away from the EP. Is there anything else? There's also the intro track, which kind of has an interesting sound to it. Is there anything else about the EP that kind of stands out in your memory that you wanted to highlight here that was fun or that you enjoyed?
Yeah. I mean, well, like I said, these songs kind of had a bunch of different arrangements, but where we ended up was kind of perfect to me. Being part of every aspect of the project can be a very grueling thing, but also so rewarding, because I was there for every mix, like sitting there listening to myself over and over and over again, and everyone else, and you kind of go a little bit crazy. And um but I think that was also so rewarding to hear the difference beginning to end, and the little aspects I added um towards the end of the project. Those background vocals that you hear on Farewell, I came up with those at a trip to the cottage, my friend's cottage. I was just sitting on the dock and kind of singing these backgrounds. And I was writing a lot of this music about, first relationships, first heartbreak kind of thing. And I think the most special part of the project is that I finished this record when I was 24 years old, but I started it when I was 19. I started writing it. So it felt like I was completing it for myself, and that I was answering a lot of 19-year-old me's questions of that time. So it was really a journey, and hopefully it kind of sounds like that, even though it's quite short. And adding in, a lot of people kind of think that as much as there is a theme of heartbreak and like one sort of relationship, the song I Think of You came to me very late in the project. I wrote that mostly about the people who were in my life at the time of suffering and feeling very sad, family members and friends who I sort of took for granted in a time that I was thinking too much about myself and my 20-year-old experience. So that was sort of like a break almost, and a dedication to them. And that's what I would tell people if they didn't know. Yeah.
Nice. So you can take this whichever direction you want. When it comes time for you to make what would then be your first full-length album, what
Yeah.
did you take away from putting this out and making this project that is going to be on your mind about what you want to do or what you want out of that when that inevitably happens?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot that I would do similarly, and there's a lot that I would do differently, because each project is different, especially because of the material will be very different. But the plan is to make a record of all jazz standards that I really love, that I'm connected to, and for there still to be this theme, and one day I'll get to that and talk about the theme once we land on it. But I intend to still be telling a story, and obviously, because I think that that's the job, but be open to, I think, being a little more hands off. I think that I'm relieved to know that I won't be in the producer chair every second, and listening to every single mix so closely, and likely the plan is to have with less instruments. So there's a bit of freedom, but also a little bit of a safe box to be put into, in terms of what will be happening. I feel like I'm talking very vague about these things, but yeah, I just hope to have the same type of energy in terms of making something that is refreshing and accessible, and yet very I would like to honor this music, and very tasteful, I guess, is what I would like to say, is that I want to make it my first jazz record and be proud of it, and it be something that I would listen to and that people I look up to would listen to, and random Joe from down the street would listen to, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So with standards like you're talking about, is that more of what's going to happen on this show, downhill here in Port Moody, when you're going to be playing with Corey and the band? Are you going to be playing a lot of standards?
That's right. Yeah, I don't think we'll be playing any original material. We didn't speak about, and honestly, the other thing about my music is I released it not too long ago, but I lived with it for a very long time, like since 19. So those songs though I will continue to play them for shows, I think that I'm definitely ready to move on to the next thing. And it will be a show of standards for sure. Yeah.
Nice. How much time have you spent with Corey, or like when did you meet and connect?
Yeah, well, I haven't spent too much time with Corey, but I met him. What I'm trying to think. I don't think the first time we spoke was not through meeting in person. We sort of connected through very good friend of ours, one of my best friends, Jacob Chung, tenor saxophone player extraordinaire. And he had worked with Corey and had released this amazing record and had been to Vancouver and sort of talked to me about that experience and the Cellar label and how amazing all of that was, and it sounded really appealing to me. And then he sort of kind of, I guess, introduced us, is how I would say it. He introduced us, and I received a message, I think it was Christmas Eve. It was Christmas Eve, and I had like sort of talked about my plans and what I wanted to do and how, you know, I wanted to make a jazz record, and that Cellar was definitely on my mind. And I received this message on Christmas Eve. I like all my family's together. I read this message from Corey and I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, nice to meet you. Okay, let's talk soon. Christmas miracle. But yeah, I met him in New York because we happened to be there at the same time during his tour that he was doing. He brought
so that was this year.
This was this year.
Yeah.
We just met in March. I believe it was in March. And I sang a couple songs and we talked about musicians we loved and had this talk about organ and loving organ and how I was listening to a lot of records with organ players on it, and how there's not that many vocal records with organ. That's not the direction we're moving in quite yet, but in terms of this show that I'll be playing in Burnaby with the Nightcrawlers and having an organ group is very current for me. I really love the sound of that, and very inspired by Ella Fitzgerald, who made a record with organ, and Etta Jones, who is a singer that has really inspired me. It's the other reason I've connected with Corey is because he released that Live at the Left Bank Etta Jones record, and she has inspired me like greatly over the past few years listening to her. She's kind of underrated, and what a expressive, amazing voice. So yeah, that's how we sort of connected. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Maybe this was around the same time, because I was also going to mention, speaking of Jacob Chung, you sang at Smalls with the Jacob Chung Quartet.
Yes. Yeah. I sat in with Jacob. He's been a very great championer of me ever since we met in Toronto through friends that I went to Humber with. He went to U of T, and we actually at the time lived just down the street from each other in downtown Toronto. And we connected, I think it must have been 2021 we met for the first time, but I'd heard a lot about him, and started playing some shows in Toronto, this place called the Emmett Ray and places like that. And he had always he still does champion me to do the thing. And so when he moved to New York, he still was calling me, and we'd play shows here in Toronto. And when I visited, he was so kind enough to invite me up to play some songs with him and such great musicians in New York. So that was a real treat. Yeah.
Have you come out to Vancouver much or spent time here yet?
It'll be my first time in Vancouver. I've been to Kelowna, BC, visiting a friend once, but it'll be my first time in Vancouver. I'm so excited. I know it'll be rainy and cold, but it's still going to be beautiful. So, yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and guess that you went to Kelowna because of somebody who was from there who went to Humber?
No, it was through my partner's friend, actually, that he grew up with. his family had moved to Kelowna, and we wanted to go on a trip. He invited us to stay at his family's house, and it was just a really beautiful time. Really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Did you go in the summer or the not summer?
The spring. I think we were there in
Okay.
April or May. Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty good because it gets pretty hot there sometimes, and also
Yeah.
cold in winter.
Yeah. I like the in-between seasons, back to seasons. But yeah, I like fall and spring when it's not raining that much. I'm not big on rain, so
Well, by the time you get here, it's going to be pretty bad by your
Yeah.
criteria.
That's right. Everyone's warning me.
But nevertheless, we look
Yes.
forward to having you out here. Is there anything that's on your radar? I mean, obviously Jacob and those guys, we've had them out here a couple times, and we will again soon. So they know a little bit about Vancouver. Is there anything on your radar about what you want to do while you're here?
I haven't really even thought about it. I'm just really looking forward to the shows. I have a couple other friends who are from Vancouver, and I'm sure they'll recommend some things, and through Corey as well. But yeah, I'm open to whatever. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm sure you'll find out where you're going to meet a lot of interesting people. So
Yes.
that'll be fun.
I'm really looking forward to playing for a whole new group of people. That's what's really exciting about it, for sure.
Well, we look forward to having you here at Port Moody for the Inlet Music Series. So I'm going to meet you at that point. That'll be fun. And I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me before you come out here. But thanks for talking about your music and all that other stuff you're coming up. It's exciting.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Look forward to meeting in person. Yeah.